It was a rainy Tuesday morning when Sergeant Daniel Reeves, now retired, now a single dad, walked into the community therapy center with a heavy duffel bag over one shoulder and a pair of identical twins holding onto each hand. Most people noticed the military buzz cut, the roughness in his eyes, the thick calluses on his hands. But what they didn't see was how gently he crouched to adjust the scarves around the girls' necks or how he squeezed their little fingers, as if grounding them to reality. Ava and Lily, both 7, had not spoken a word in over a year. Not since the car accident that took their father's wife and their ability to trust the world. The doctors called it selective mutism. Therapists tried art, music, even animal therapy. But the girls stayed quiet, silent shadows in a world too loud for their broken hearts. Across the room, Olivia Hart, a speech pathologist and mother of the twins, sat behind the glass, arms folded across her chest, her spine like steel. She was known in town as the Iron Mother, a woman who didn't cry, didn't crumble, didn't hope anymore. She had stopped believing in miracles the same day her daughters stopped calling her Mommy. Dan had been volunteering since his discharge, after 16 years in the Army. He had no formal training with children. But he understood trauma, the kind that presses down like a rock on your chest. He understood what it meant to be stuck in silence, screaming inside. So when he was paired with Ava and Lily for a new experimental bonding activity, Hero Buddy program, he simply smiled, got down on the floor, and started stacking wooden blocks. He didn't speak to them at first. Just grunted playfully when a tower fell. Made silly faces, showed them pictures of his dog, Max, in army goggles. He even brought Max in one day, and the girls tentatively patted his head. Every session, Dan was patient, present, gentle. 3 weeks in, Olivia watched from behind the glass as Lily placed her tiny hand on Dan's chest where his dog tags used to hang and whispered something, barely a sound, more breath than word. "Tank," she said. Dan blinked, stunned. He turned slowly to Ava. She looked at her sister, and then at him, and whispered, "Boom." Behind the glass, Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could even register them. The Iron Mother broke, not out of weakness, but out of awe. She rushed into the room, falling to her knees, her arms wrapping around her daughters. The twins didn't flinch like they usually did. Instead, Ava tugged her mom's sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered. It was the first time in 426 days. Olivia sobbed into their hair. She looked up at Dan, eyes full of something between gratitude and disbelief. "What did you do?" Dan knelt beside them, rubbing the back of his neck. "Nothing special. I just listened to their silence." From that day on, Dan was more than a volunteer. He became part of their healing, and, slowly, part of their family. Not in some fairy tale romance kind of way, but in a real, human way, like the way people show up when it matters most. Because sometimes, healing doesn't come from doctors or books. Sometimes, it walks in wearing scuffed boots and a heart that knows what it means to lose. And in that quiet room filled with wooden blocks, a soldier gave 2 little girls their voices back, not with force, but with presence. And he reminded their mother, that hope doesn't shout. Sometimes, it whispers. It started with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that screamed from every corner of the room. The kind that made even the ticking clock feel too loud. That was the world Olivia Hart lived in ever since her twin daughters, Ava and Lily, lost their voices. Not because they couldn't speak, but because trauma had taken something deeper. A car crash, a shattered family, and a silence that refused to lift. Every day, Olivia brought them to therapy. Every day, she watched them draw flowers without color and play with toys without joy. And every day, she left with a heavier heart. Until one day, a man walked in. Sergeant Daniel Reeves was a tall, broad-shouldered single dad with a crooked smile and a quiet pain behind his eyes. He was there to volunteer, not because he needed hours, but because he needed purpose. After years in war zones, nothing terrified him more than losing his connection to the world, especially to his own son, who lived states away with his ex. When Olivia first saw him, she didn't expect much. She'd seen volunteers come and go, each hoping to make a dent in the silence. None stayed long, none made a difference, but Dan was different. He didn't come in with clipboards or expectations. He came in with muddy boots, a toy tank in one hand, and a soft-spoken dog named Max at his side. And the twins noticed. They didn't speak, but they watched, and Dan didn't rush them. He sat on the floor and built Lego towers, letting them knock them down. He hummed silly army chants and made Max do tricks. He told quiet stories of faraway deserts, not of war, but of stars, and wind, and quiet nights when the world seemed still. After a week, Ava began to smile. After 2, Lily reached for his hand. And then, on a gray Thursday, as the rain tapped gently on the center's windows, it happened. Dan held out a hand-drawn picture he'd made, 2 little girls holding hands with a soldier and a dog. He didn't say anything, just slid it across the floor with a wink. Ava looked at it, then looked at him, her lips parted. "Max," she whispered. Dan froze. Olivia, watching through the glass wall, dropped her coffee. Lily turned to her sister. Then, slowly, looked up at Dan. "Tank," she whispered, touching the corner of the drawing. The silence shattered. Dan swallowed hard, his throat thick. "Yeah, that's Max, and that's my tank, but you're the brave ones, not me." Olivia burst into the